Committee of the Whole, Wednesday, July 21st, 2021. Item number 2.1. I need a mover and a seconder that the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting held June 15th, 2021 be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Luck and White. And any errors or omissions? All in favor? Opposed?
In favor.
In favor? Thank you. Carried. 3.1, new business, tourism partnership. And I'm going to turn the floor over to you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I am particularly excited about this because I think everybody in this room probably feels like this conversation has been about 3 years, 8 years, depending on who you talk to in the making. So really, really happy to be moving to a spot where I think probably the 2 major tourism organizations in our city have an opportunity to talk about how we can best and most efficiently provide tourism services to raise and elevate the profile of the city of Merritt. And that's really what this is all about. So want to first have a brief conversation about what our current tourism delivery model is. You guys are well aware that as part of this upcoming, or of this last budget process, that we've had a, just wait, let me scroll down for me there.
Can I interrupt for a second, John? If we're going to be looking at the presentation, can we do something with the lights? Not to turn them right off, but it'll be easier to see for these old eyes.
So you watch, if nothing else, the 3 screens around the room as well. So.
Yeah, I know, but then I have to.
Too dark. Too dark.
Too dark.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you take these ones off for the right now?
Yeah, I don't know.
You're asking too much. That's
And the cookies and coffee are coming with.
Yeah, that's right. Would anybody like some lemonade with this?
Thank you.
So the city's been providing in-house tourism services through Tourism Merritt. This slide gives you a very brief rundown on what the costs for various things that we've been providing. The program has been overseen by the Manager of Communications, Economic Development and Tourism, and as you'll see on the next slide, those have been split out, and one of the things that kind of necessitated or really prompted this conversation was how we can best deliver the tourism component of that job given the split of the Communications and Economic Development role. So when I say that the approximate annual budget for tourism is $40,000, it is excluding what we do with the Bailey House, and it's excluding any grants that we receive as well. So what that included was approximately 25% of one salary, as that salary was divided among multiple things, as well as about $15,000 for marketing and promotional materials. Almost everything else that was done in the tourism space was funded by grant. What I can tell you is to fund a really strong tourism program, this is insufficient. And there's not even really debate about it. I think everybody in this room would acknowledge this is not enough money to run a strong tourism program. And so part of that is going to be a conversation about MRDT, but part of this is going to be a conversation about budget priorities and what happens as part of the upcoming budget process. So I just wanted to put this on here so that you understood where we're at and what we do. We have been fairly successful in receiving grants related to tourism. We've received a whole bunch of very different rural dividend grants actually, and TNV has been successful with the rural dividend program as well. We have been receiving $25,000 annually from Destination BC as a result of the closure of the Tourist Info Center. That does discontinue at the end of this year, so that will be one funding source that will dry up. So we will very quickly need to be looking to how we can best fund this program moving forward. Which leads us to, Greg keeps disappearing.
I'm going to interrupt one more time.
Please do.
I'm missing my back piece to my chair. Does anyone happen to have a chair with an extra little back thing attached to it? Ah! Sorry, I really do need it. Chair's back. Thank you.
Lynn, do you have any idea how he's, I don't even see it here. Oh,
Sorry.
you found it over there. Okay, well, good thing I know what I'm talking about, so we're just gonna keep on going through. I really should have pulled this up on my computer. My apologies, Your Worship. With this, we talked about how we are hiring a manager of communications, we're hiring a manager of economic development, but what that leaves is a void for what we're doing with tourism. The two options, and this is what it would show on that next slide, are to first split, again, run a split with the manager of economic development and tourism role. So have those two where they're once again combined. I think that that is not as advantageous as running the option of potentially looking at having an outside organization run tourism for the city of Merritt. And so that's really what we're here and want to talk about today. So you can just jump right to the next one. So, no problem. So we want to talk a little bit today. I'm going to give some brief introductions, and I'll open it up for any ideas that TNV has as well for what a formal relationship with TNV could look like. And so a primary underpinning to this, and it's one of the things that I think we've really lost out on in this community, is setting up a formal MRDT program. There's hundreds of thousands of dollars of funds that we aren't collecting every year from people who stay on short-term rentals in the city of Merritt that could be going towards tourism initiatives that aren't, because, well, I don't think anybody wants to rehash the reasons, but we haven't collectively worked to get our act together to get an MRDT in place. And so that is one of the underpinnings of this relationship, is that we would actively work together to establish the MRDT program in the city of Merritt. That would allow us to collect up to 3% on all short-term accommodation, and then potentially a portion of that would go towards affordable housing if that was the direction that council wanted it to go. So the way that there would be a whole process to actually getting this set up, but in order to, I think, get the groundwork that would really be the launching pad towards us moving to an MRDT and having TNV potentially offer tourism services on behalf of the city of Merritt, we would want to enter into an agreement with TNV. And that agreement would do a number of different things, but some of the key things are naming TNV as the eligible entity for the purposes of collecting the MRDT tax. So under the MRDT program, which I know that we've talked about a fair bit with council, so we are kind of just going over it in loose detail today, but it is either a municipality that has to collect it, or you can name an eligible entity that is going to collect and administer this particular tax. And so what we would be proposing under this agreement is naming TNV as the eligible entity. It would also name TNV as the provider of tourism services for the city of Merritt, and it would establish roles and responsibilities for what that constitutes. It would provide funding from the city to TNV for tourism services, and one of the things that we would obviously need to be working out as part of this process is exactly what that funding would be looking like on top of MRDT dollars, and then how the parties will work together. So to elaborate on that last point, this is something that, full disclosure, Amber and I have met a number of times here over the course of the last month to discuss how we can really meet the needs of council and meet the needs of TNV to ensure that we can have a healthy working relationship for as long as possible into the future. And so a major part of this, in what I'd heard from council, is that council really wanted to have input, to be directly involved in the creation of a tourism plan, to make sure that they were still involved in a significant part of setting the tourism direction for the community. What we'd heard from TNB is that hoteliers and other people that were involved in the tourism industry in the city don't want to have no say whatsoever either. They want to be a part of this process. And so what we really are envisioning is the creation of a 5-year master plan that is going to be jointly created between the city and TNB, bringing these parties together, bringing anyone that has an interest in expanding our tourism in the city of Merritt to really create the strongest possible tourism plan. After that is set up, what we would envision under this agreement is that TNB would then be responsible for creating an annual action plan that wouldn't have it wouldn't be the city telling DNB, here are the specific items to work on. They would be pulling from the broader master plan and would be preparing an action plan to present out to the council and also to report on what was done under the previous year's action plan, and that would be part of the regular reporting. It could also set up other forms of regular reporting, whether it's quarterly or however it works between the parties. That's something that certainly would be discussed. We talked about making sure that council feels comfortable that they understand on a kind of day-to-day, month-to-month basis the direction that TNB is going to be going, and so establishing formal council appointments to the TNB board was one key mechanism for that. And on a tentative basis, it sounds like that there is openness from DNB's side to facilitate that process. As well, there would be a staff liaison. So a staff liaison would attend these meetings, would be a resource that could be a call for any given initiative. So to ensure that city staff and TNB as the tourism providers would work very closely together. As always with any agreement, there would be provisions for dispute resolution to outline what would happen if something did go wrong, if we weren't able to come to agreement on any particular item, so that both parties can understand what would happen at the outset. Because we know that there have been things in the past. I know that this is going to be a leap of faith moving forward, but I really believe that this can work, having been kind of in the middle of both parties, and I think that this is something that would be successful. So there are a whole lot of things. When we're talking about this as a general overview, I want you to understand it is a really general overview, because there's a lot of heavy lifting that would need to be done in order to get to the point where this is up and running. The least of which is the creation of an MRD communication and implementation plan, because it's no guarantee that we can just say, okay, we're all on the same side now, guys, let's go put this out to a vote, and an MRDT is magically going to appear. There's going to be work. There's going to need to be a lot of discussions and education, because at the end of the day, it only takes 51% of votes of hoteliers and 51% of the rooms to set an MRDT up. But that isn't the standard I think we should be shooting for. I would like to have as much buy-in across the board as possible. Work to have it where the whole community is rallying around this, and we can really start changing the narrative around tourism in our community. So I would really like that not to be our aim, to strategically find out how we can get 51%. I would much rather shoot higher than that and trust that those votes would be there when the day comes. So there's a lot of work that would need to go into that.
And perhaps even before you get to that point, to start to do some lobbying with the individuals to let them know how valuable this process could be for them.
Yeah, and I think that's when we say communication and implementation, that's what a lot of this is. It's coming up with what the specific benefits to them would be, what the benefits to the community would be. Education and one-on-one conversations, group discussions. There would be lots of, like you say, kind of advanced lobbying prior to the vote to really help people understand the way this is going to benefit the city. There would be lots of work that would need to be done to clearly establish TNB and city roles and responsibilities. But I would go one step further than that, and I think that we need to have some broader conversations with some critical community organizations in that the Chamber and Community Futures would need to be part of this as well, because I would love to, actually I'm going to say that we would delineate tourism services, economic development and business support services as distinct classes. There is always a little bit of overlap and gray with that. But what I want to get to, and I believe we can get to, is the spirit where if something is right for the chamber to be working on, the city is directing those things to the chamber. Where if something is right for Community Futures to be working on, maybe it's the chamber directing it there, maybe it's the city directing it there, maybe it's DNV directing it there. If something's right for the city to be working on, it's being directed to the city. Because we all have different strengths, we all have different mandates, and I believe that if we kind of clarify what all of those mandates are, that we play into each organization's strengths, that we can make this whole landscape much more clear for not just tourists, but also residents in the city of Merritt, so they know how they can best get involved and support these initiatives. So I would really like to bring these parties together to better understand what each party's role is currently, but could be within the city of Merritt, so that those organizations could grow into those roles. I would
Working together for a common goal.
Breach. I'm with you. That's exactly right. We would want to establish a mechanism to ensure that any tax collected for affordable housing does flow through to the municipality. So again, if it's DNB that's directly receiving those funds, how we actually have those funds remitted back to the city for the affordable housing bit. Again, there's lots of discussions that would need to be had around budgets, how TNB would be funded, how it would be staffed, because I have had conversations again with Amber, and at least the vision from my perspective is that there would be, at the very least, an employee at the outset to really be driving a lot of these initiatives, because I think having someone that this is their job, this is what they're doing, would really be necessary to start getting us off the ground. So there would definitely need to be conversations as to what the funding and staffing for that would look like. Tourism plan creation. I said earlier that the 5-year plans and then the 1-year plans, we would need to be getting off on those and getting a good start on making that happen, because they won't come together immediately. But I do know from talking with most of the individuals in this room that there are a lot of strong ideas. It's about synthesizing those ideas and then plopping them into economic constraints while letting the creativity still run wild. So there's even more intricate things, like we've got lots of different websites out there right now. What does the website management going to look like? What's the branding going to be? What's the consolidation process going to look like? But again, these are details that with concerted effort can definitely be worked through. So with that, I want to make what is the staff recommendation, and that's that the committee as the whole recommends to council that staff work with TNV to develop a mutually acceptable agreement that would establish TNV as the provider of tourism services for the city and establish TNV as an eligible entity for collection of a municipal and regional district tax. And that the committee recommend to council that a consultant be retained to assist with developing and implementing plans to support this transition, with costs of up to $20,000 to come from the council contingency fund. So that council is aware, I feel that both for staff capacity and for expediting this as soon as possible, spending this $20,000 in order to make this process move along, having somebody that can really drive it, is going to be money well spent. And if that can get the MRDT up and running any number of months sooner, I think it will pay itself off and then some. And so I think that this is a necessary step, in my view, in order to really get this moving. And I think that DNV very much feels the same. So just as notes to that, so that council is comfortable with it, any agreement that we would be working on would come back to council for review, potential amendment. You would have the opportunity to do as you would with that. As well, I wanted to just let you know that in your council contingency budget, you have an annual budget of 22 and you're currently sitting at 2,039. So this would, so you know, tap out council contingency. With that, the intent of this presentation was really to be a conversation starter, and so I should have said at the beginning, and perhaps we all should have done it, is welcome to the Merritt and Nicola Valley I always forget
Yeah,
this.
American Nickel Valley Destination.
Destination Marketing Society. You guys rock.
And we
TNV.
changed the name.
You are TNV as far as I'm concerned. So thank you all for coming here today and for this show of support. We're really happy to have you. And I will turn the time back to Mayor Brown for hopefully a good discussion about where we go from here.
I would like to ask Amber to please introduce your group.
Sure, yes. So I think I know most people, but just there's some staff that I'm not familiar with. So I'm Amber Papo, officially just a couple months ago, the Executive Director for Tourism Nicola Valley, and we'll just shorten that to Tourism Nicola Valley. I tried to do the acronym, which is NNVDMS, but that's hard to say that. Some of our directors are here, but I'll go just in order of people sitting next to me. So May Ketter, familiar face to most people, she worked with CFTC for a long time. She has a contract with the TNB to help us with administration, which is not a very good way of explaining all the stuff she does. But Paul Rose is a director, a new director to TNB. Chris Langhound, another new director to TNB. Greg is our social media expert with TNB. Works with A Canada is his company, but Experience Nicola Valley is our big project here in Marion, and I'm sure council knows about the awards that they've won recently, so we're pretty happy with that. And Sid, I can't say your last name properly.
Van Rensburg.
See, he says it with an accent, so I can't do it. So it sounds like, and Sid is also a director at TNB. The rest of the board would have liked to be here, but just for various reasons are not.
Thank you. And do you know all of us? Would you like us to go around the table?
Sure.
Dawn, can you start?
Yeah, I'm Don MacArthur, the Planning and Development Services Director.
And
Everyone knows Sean.
Yeah, you're like Madonna, you just have one name, Sean.
yeah, there's enough Seans around here though. You throw that out there, there's like a 30% chance you've got it
Say
right.
your name and get it over with.
That's right.
I'm Greg Lawis, I'm the city's Director of Corporate Services.
I'm Linda Breck, I'm the Deputy Corporate Officer.
Ed Winter, Councillor.
Travis Fair, Councillor and owner of Reed Lakes.
Tony Luck, Counselor.
Mayor, Linda Brown.
Mike Malou.
Irene White.
Wayne Anderson, Director of Finance.
Faces and names will get
Yeah.
familiar to you after a while.
Yeah.
We should be saying this is history in the making, isn't it?
No, it's too soon. It's too soon. We're,
Be positive.
So I think that there's a few different directions that we can go with it, but the first thing that if we could have just some general guidance on whether this is of interest. You don't have to make the recommendation right now, but any questions for either staff or of TNV before you get in debate, and then you can debate all you want. So I think that if we just do questions and information sharing first, that would probably be best.
Sure. Kurt, you can start. You're wanting to jump in.
Well, I'm just absolutely delighted that finally the parties that should be working together are looking at doing so. I've been asking for years the Community Futures, the Chamber of Commerce, TND, and the city could be on the same page. We're not there yet, but I think this is a splendid opportunity to examine what is in Merit's best interest. I'm thrilled that this meeting is finally taking place. It's Merit has been a divided community for way too many years, and no sense rehashing all of that. But I think it's a splendid beginning to talk together, to say, here's what we do best, here's maybe what you do best, and so on, so that we can put Merit where we think it should be. It's a wonderful place, and we have so many opportunities here to showcase our city, our amenities, our talents. It's time that we work together and put some of the past back in the past. So thanks for showing up.
Anybody else want to add to that? Councillor Luck.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to echo Councillor Christopherson's. I haven't been around as long as Councillor Christopherson, but ever since I started on this path of being on council and everything, it was one of my goals to see this happen. One of the things about coming here as a new person, you just hear all these rumors and too many nasty rumors. This is fantastic. As somebody just mentioned, I think it was you, Mayor, that said this is history in the making. I want to be very positive. I think it will be history in the making for this community. And I just see a synergy coming out of this that we haven't had before, this kind of development and moving forward with our community. And I'm really excited about that. And each of us are going to do what we do best. And I think the TNB has shown themselves more than capable of taking this on and doing that and expanding. And then when they get a little bit more funding behind them and that kind of thing, I think it's going to be really good for our community as a whole. Council can be proud, TNB can be proud, and I think our community can be proud in the long run. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can do together here, and I'm really excited about it. So kudos to everyone, Mr. Smith, for pulling this all together and seeing the vision, as well as council seeing the vision on this, and it's really good. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
I feel like I should applaud every time.
Councillor White.
Oh, I don't know if I can speak as a councillor or TNB or what to speak as, but...
Right now you're a councillor.
Okay, well, however I'm speaking, I think this will be great, and I think it'll be wonderful, and I think it's something that Merritt's needed for a long, long time, and I think anybody that knows me knows tourism is pretty much my passion, and I think that this little Merritt can be a great destination when it's all said and done.
Thank you. Councillor Fair.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to put my voice with the others that have spoken so far. I'm totally in agreement. I think it's very exciting. So yeah, happy to start on this path.
We've got 2 left.
I think it's wonderful that
Can you put your mic on? Councillor Bangu.
Yes, I was actually waiting for the comment period. I thought this was question period. That's why I didn't bother. But either way.
This is not any period. We don't have a motion on the table. We're just discussing.
Sure. I echo these comments. I think this is wonderful. Good luck in getting this together.
No pressure, Adam, but it's your turn.
Well, I think that the idea of having an outside society working on tourism is probably the way to go because it's successful in other communities. And then you have different minds with different talents coming together for the common goal. And really, it's about time, like they say in Spanish, yándale, get on with it, right? So that would be a good way to go. So there you go. Thanks.
Are you taking language lessons now?
I mean now. Always spoke Spanish.
Yeah, okay. And I too agree with everything that's been stated, and there is no stopping us as a city if we work together to just be as great as we possibly can be, and I'm really looking forward to this. And there's going to be times when we don't agree. 7 of us don't agree all the time, but we have to work our way through to get to where we need to be. So let's keep our goals in mind and work towards working together to make this place a beautiful place. I almost said great again. I just went to hit myself, but yeah, to get to that place where we all know where we can be. So let's get there together. And I'm going to ask for a motion because it seems pretty clear to me where we're going with this. So I need a...
Do I have to step out here?
No, this is a workshop.
No, it's always
If you-
up to you.
I will.
I would if I...
Yeah.
Okay, I've lost
You can
my
leave it
motion
open, yeah.
on here. Hold on.
What's
Somebody
that,
read it
Ken?
for me? I need a mover and a seconder.
That the committee of the whole recommend to council that staff work with TNB to develop a mutually acceptable agreement that would establish TNB as the provider of tourism services for the city and establish TNB as an eligible entity for collection of the municipal and regional district tax, and that the committee recommend to council that a consultant be retained to assist with the development and implementing plans to support this transition with costs of up to $20,000 to come from the council contingency fund.
Thank you. Did you move that? Yeah, you moved it. And seconder?
Second.
Luck. Luck moved it, Christopherson seconded. So we've talked about it. Does anyone want to say more? Councillor Van Gu, you had your...
Yes. I like this idea and I think we should move forward. However, is there another place we can find the $20,000? I don't know if I feel comfortable draining the contingency fund just yet. So anyone wants to talk about that?
Councillor Christopherson.
Do you want me to take a kick at the can for that question?
Sure.
So the short of it is we can pull the 20,000 from anywhere, but you'd have to make a budget amendment. This is the way that we could do it without making any budget amendments. We don't have a whole lot of spots where you can just sneak in 20,000, which I happen to think is a really, really good thing for the community. I want the public to know that. Yeah, if you would like to make this as propose a budget amendment, we could add it to one of the tourism, probably the consultant or contractor lines. So I'll defer to you as to where you want to go with it.
Can we hear from the CFO?
Yes, Mayor and Council. We can definitely do a budget amendment. We're planning to bring forward a list of budget amendments in the August council meeting. So this is something that we could put through economic development as a consulting charge for $20,000 and leave the contingency where it is. If that's what you'd like to do, we can put that forward in the August meeting.
I apologize, I just called you Mr. McDonald again. I don't know why, I've got your last name, it's McDonald in my brain.
Okay.
Mr. Anderson, I apologize. There's history there. Councillor Christopherson.
Just an information asking type question. The chamber is just really trying to get up and running again. Is the chamber synonymous with a business association, a BIA? Can it do the same function, or do we also need to have a business association?
The answer is no. And I'm going to hail you back to a presentation that Mr. MacArthur gave. But the chamber is going to represent all businesses that are members of the chamber in the community, whereas a business improvement area is only going to represent people within a defined jurisdiction. So generally speaking, you'll set it up for perhaps a 1 or 2 block area. And regardless of whether you're not a member, it's if you are in that area, you are paying into the BIA program, but there is additional benefits that the city can provide to it. So they're fundamentally structured differently. They can offer similar things. So let's say one wanted to offer a busking program or something like that. It's just that the BIA would be doing it just for the businesses that are in the BIA area, whereas the chamber may be doing it on a broader basis, or they could be doing the downtown. So they aren't necessarily synonymous, but they could theoretically be doing similar things in similar geographic areas. But there are advantages to BIAs as well. Did you want to add anything, Mr. MacArthur?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just that we would, of course, need to discuss between TNB, the Chamber, and a potential BIA and the city, of course, to try to ensure that we didn't have overlapping areas of responsibility. So that's going to require negotiation, and because a BIA and the chamber, we want to make sure that they're both important organizations in the community, and that they have their sort of area of responsibility, and over time that will hopefully work itself out.
That's why I was asking, because it's early yet in the process, and I think if we manage to make this really, really successful, then if projects do develop, such as in the downtown core and so on, then if there's a need, it'll develop. But in the meantime, the chamber is
That's right.
a good alternative.
As we've talked about previously, BIAs actually have a very similar structure for how they get set up as the MRDT does, in that you need to have 51% of the businesses in the area vote for this, and if you get a 51% vote, then the BIA covers 100% of the businesses in the area. So it's a fairly similar mechanism in terms of how setting one up works. So where we don't have one right now, absolutely we would be leaning on the chamber. And I should also add that there's nothing that would prohibit somebody in a BIA area from also being a member of the chamber. So.
Councillor Richard.
My only question was about the contingency fund paying for the amount, which Councillor Banku already asked, and we can already do the budget amendment, which is fine. I don't imagine, well, we're halfway through the year and we've only used 10% of the contingency fund, but things could come up, so if we can make the budget amendment, that's all I really had a question on. So, it's been answered.
So long as you guys don't grill me when we go over budget.
Councillor Bangu.
How do the others feel about $20,000? If we're all in agreement, perhaps we should amend this motion to reflect that.
Can we take care of that after we get where it's going to come from? Is not part of, I guess it is, the contingency fund.
Yeah.
Or just amend it to say, we'll decide later where it's coming from. Just to use it.
No, I don't want to do that. If we're spending money, we need to know where it's coming from.
I think if we were to just say from the economic development budget, and we can bring forward that budget amendment, would that be sufficient, Wayne?
Yes, the economic development area of the budget would be where we would be coming from. So we could just generally say economic development, whether it's one GL or another, it will be within that grouping.
Okay. Can we amend this motion that's on the floor?
Yep, you can, Your Worship.
Yeah.
You can, one of you could move an amendment to this motion, which is currently under discussion, and if it passes, that would then become the substantive motion to be recommended to Council or to have the vote on.
And one of the questions we haven't asked is there money in the economic development budget to do that?
Not right now, there isn't. But there could be with the budget amendment.
Do you plan on taking it from contingency?
I'm vindictive, but I'm not that cruel. No, it would ultimately this would likely be coming from general reserve, or surplus, something along those lines. So.
Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, Don MacArthur and myself did spend some time reviewing the economic development budget today. It's running at about 47% halfway through the year, so it's on plan, and it looks like there are some opportunities to pull some revenue in from our other grants that we've got in our prepaid accounts. So I think they will be on plan even with 20,000 added in to their budget. So going out on a ledge there, Don, but I think you will be on plan. Even with this additional expenditure.
Okay, we'll give it a try and we'll use a budget amendment if it doesn't work. Who made that? That was Luck and
Christopherson.
Christopherson. Are you okay with this amendment?
I'm not moving the amendment. Somebody else will have to move the amendment. I move the motion.
Oh, I was thinking friendly amendment.
Oh. Yeah, I think it probably should be something else.
Your Worship, if I may, the current bylaw provisions the procedure bylaw provisions don't actually allow for any of that, and although committees tend to be less formal than council, my recollection of the current rules you're operating under, the only capacity there is to amend this is with one of you moving, another seconding, and then having a majority vote.
I'm waiting, but I'm not hearing, so I don't want to make the motion. Are you going to make the motion?
I'd like to amend this motion to indicate that the $20,000 come from the economic development budget as opposed to the council contingency fund.
And is there a seconder? Okay, Edgeworth second. Okay. Anybody want to speak to it? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so now the new motion reads that it's coming from the Economic Development Fund. Anyone wanting to continue to speak to the motion that's on the floor? I think we pretty well said everything beforehand, so I'm going to ask the question. All in favor? Opposed? None? Carried. Can somebody go get Melba before we forget her? Not that we've ever been known to do that, right?
You're elected.
So from here, it's just going to be an open discussion. I'd like to hear from some of you TNV members, or all of you TNV members.
I'm happy to start. Do I need a microphone?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, let's just plug one up on the podium.
Okay. Oh, you make me stand up.
I know, I'm so cool.
That's okay. I practice in the bathroom with my hairbrush all the time.
There's no music, I'm sorry.
It's probably better, actually, don't want me singing. I echo Mayor saying that this is a historic moment. Now, for some of us in this room, including on council, we've been doing this since well into the early 2000s. So it's kind of one of those surreal moments for me. Even, I know that there's lots of work to continue on, for sure, absolutely. But even just having this conversation hasn't happened in the history of this communities, at least in the last 20 years. So it's nice to hear. Kudos to Sean, because it's been a bit of an uphill battle for him, for sure. He entered in a time where there was the ending of a lot of the differences between different groups. I don't really have anything else to say except for TNV is willing to obviously pull their weight. There is a lot of work to do in terms of communicating with the stakeholders, especially the accommodation owners. It's not just telling them what's in it for them, but also trying to explain to them all the fear base that's involved in that. Not only is it what's going to happen with the city, but also understanding how they collected the responsibility and all of that. So there's a lot of communication, which the idea of having someone come in and that's an expert in this to help us with a communication plan, I think is crucial. The regulations, et cetera, on the MRDT are pretty straightforward. I think between Sean and I, we can figure those things out. But it is the communication and the consistency and how all of us project that and making sure that we continue with the consistency and the communication. I think that's really important. I also feel really strongly with Sean delineating the roles and responsibilities between the important groups in this community is important. We've seen the demise, or almost the demise, of some of them because of that. Understanding the difference between a BIA, a DBA, understanding what the acronyms mean, and the chamber. The interesting thing with the chamber is there's a lot of support in the BC Chamber. they can help us too in helping the chamber get their legs back and defining the roles that they have. So anyway, it's very exciting for me. I'm speaking on behalf of this group, but I'm sure there's a few of them we'll want to talk to. So thanks again for considering this, council. It's very important.
Thanks, sir.
Did I have to turn that off?
Nope.
Oh,
Nope.
who's speaking?
I was just ready to give the speak now,
Yeah.
speak now or forever hold your peace.
Reminds me of open mic at weddings.
Yeah.
Watch out.
Yeah.
Mayor and council and staff, thank you for this opportunity. It's, I've been involved in many committees and boards of directors and mayors here probably for the last 20 years, I guess. And so to me, this is a pretty big moment. I think it's the start of something, but I'm sure it's going to grow and it'll grow successfully and exponentially. Otherwise, just echo what everyone else said.
And the benefits will just be
Absolutely.
amazing.
Yeah, without
Can be.
question.
Thank you.
I was staring all over.
move on here.
Oh, no, for sure.
But let's do that.
I think
to
if
get
we
through
all, if we all open and understand that, I think it'll be great.
it. Good, thank you very much. Councillor Christopherson.
Well, it's already been said that what I was going to add was simply that I think the process of us learning how to talk to each other and deal with some exciting ideas, but also trying to find solutions to things that are difficult. It's going to be an exciting time. I'm having a hard time expressing how long it has been that I've hoped that the bodies in Merritt that all seem to want the same thing are finally getting together, and I wish us all good luck.
Absolutely. So let's terminate this meeting, and if there's any conversations that happen after the meeting, let's have an informal chat. So.